Hi, Sarah.
Hi, everybody. I'm admitting like crazy.
It looks snowy there, Sarah.
I know, right?
For the trails.
Still sunny too.
Sounds on, Tyler.
Hi, Haley.
Hi, Shannon. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Where are you?
I'm in Anchorage, my house, which looks like some crazy space station the way it shows up on Zoom with all the lights inside.
Okay, we're slowing down here. 67 people so far. And we are recording.
Sarah, let me know when you think folks are in if you want me to get going.
Okay. Let's give them one more minute here.
Got a lot of folks so far. It's great.
I'm going to see if I can change Jackie's name to Sam.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Rename Sam.
Well, you have so much power, Sarah.
I know. But what I need to figure out is how to give you, I'm going to click on something like multiple people can share at once or something and let you, so you can screen share your documents.
Great.
Good thing we upped our limit on Zoom participants slightly. All right, Shannon, we're at 75, and I'm just going to keep admitting as we go, so you can kick her off if you want.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started, and folks can join us if they come a little late. And as Sarah said, we are recording, so I had a number of coaches email and call today that said if they couldn't make it. So the Zoom will be recorded. So if you'd like to watch a second time, come on back. So I'll go ahead and do some quick introductions, and then we'll go ahead and get started with our orientation. I'm Shannon Donnelly. I'm the director for Junior Nordic. Definitely a few people I haven't met yet, and I wish we were in person tonight at the chalet having pizza and doing our orientation, but obviously that's not a possibility. So welcome. Hopefully we'll meet you all in person one of these days. Sarah Lucy is the program director for all of NSAA. So she is not only just junior Nordic, she's biathlon, jumping, ski train, everything. So this is Sarah, and she'll be presenting later at the end of our orientation and going over all of our COVID mitigation plans. Haley Johnston is here. Haley is our business specialist. She'll be in charge of all of your, she'll talk in just a minute, but W-4s, payroll, all the important stuff. Heather is not with us in the Zoom tonight, but she is our, what's her title? Office administrator, Sarah?
Yeah.
And so Heather is super busy right now dealing with all of our junior Nordic registration. She's fielding all the phone calls at the front desk at the office. And so if you haven't met Heather, you probably will, or at least email with her or touch base with her. And Heather's new this season, so she's come in at a busy time. So we're gonna go ahead and let Haley kick off all the business paperworky kind of stuff, so she doesn't need to stay for the whole training. So Haley, you wanna just jump right in and start with your portion?
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, Shannon. Sarah, can I screen share?
I think I just gave you the power.
Oh, you did. Okay, great. All right, so, first things first, actually. Yeah, we'll start with that. All right, so can everyone see my little flow chart over here? Yes, nods, great. So there's a bunch of paperwork, and the best case scenario is that you're under 18 and you coached last season, because then all I need from you is a 2020 W-4, because they're different this year and we're just updating all of our payroll files. But the worst case scenario is that you are over 18 and you did not coach last year, which means that I need a W-4, an I-9, a direct deposit form, a confidentiality agreement, an employee handbook acknowledgement. You need to do a background check, and you need to do SafeSport, which is a lot. This all went out in an email to presumably all of you, and I've had, I'm gonna say, medium return so far on paperwork. I probably have 30 coaches who still need to do SafeSport. I've probably got 40 coaches who still need to get me their W-2s. Background checks, we're doing pretty good, not quite as many. But yeah, so this little visual is your cheat sheet. And yeah, so that's all the documents that I might need from you. Obviously super important is your direct deposit form, because if I don't have that, you are not getting paid on your first payroll of the season. But they're all important. The SafeSport training, if it's your first time taking it, it does take some time. So you will be compensated $20 for doing SafeSport. It'll be attached to your first paycheck of the season, as long as you've completed that. So as long as I have that certificate from you, you'll get a little bonus on that first paycheck. The background check is super fast, and yeah, so those are kind of the two things there. Right now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm gonna drop into the chat. Andrew just asked in the chat, how long does your SafeSport certification last? Because this is just a club decision to do SafeSport, to kind of take on this best practice. For us, we're saying it's 2 years, right? You do a SafeSport certification, just like our background checks. In 2 years, you'll do a refresher, which does take a little bit of time. So SafeSport, last year was our first SafeSport season. So next year will be the first time that anyone would need to recert SafeSport for us. Let's see. So in the chat right now, speaking of paychecks, I'm going to drop a Google form, and at some point during the meeting tonight, pop in there and put your first name, last name, and email address, and you'll get compensated for attending tonight's meeting as well. So potentially on your first paycheck, if you had to do SafeSport, you're getting an extra $20 for that, and you're getting an extra $20 for being here tonight if you are a paid coach. To our volunteer coaches, thanks for being saintly, and yeah, we appreciate you too. If you did not get my original email, which was wordy and long, sorry, but it had all those documents, please send me an email at that email address, which is below the Google form in the chat. If you didn't get that initial information, just get in touch with me so that I can get that to you. That is most of it for paperwork, unless people have questions about what they need to get or email address on there twice. Just fill it out once, or unless it's required. Sorry, it's probably because it's a setting. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, does anyone, you can drop them in the chat or you can speak up or raise a hand if anyone has any paperwork questions before you lose me. Oh, I guess real quick, payroll, it's twice a week or twice a month, excuse me, every other week. The first payroll for Junior Nordic will occur on, let's see, it will be, your first payroll will be December 18th. So our pay periods run from Monday morning to Sunday night. So when Junior Nordic starts, you'll get paid for those first 2 weeks on the 18th of December. You are going to sign in with your coaches at every practice, and that's how we'll tabulate your hours and get you guys paid up. Let's see, Safe Sport for last season, but it's not listed as current on the Google form. Micah, thanks. I will jot down your name and update that. Yeah, in that email there was a spreadsheet where you could check your background check expiration date, and you could check and see if your Safe Sport was current. So if you don't know, check back in that email, look and see if it's current. And like Micah just said, his wasn't listed appropriately. So if for some reason there's an error there, just let me know.
If I need to get my W-4 to you, should I just like take pictures of that and then email it to you, or what should I do?
Yeah, that works great, Zach. You can, I mean, if you have access to a scanner, you can scan it, you can pop it in the mail to the office, or you can take a photo and send it to me. We're just doing the full gamut of COVID. However you can get it to me with COVID appropriateness is fine by me.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Anyone else? No? All right.
I know there's one of the coaches is in the waiting room.
Oh, maybe Sarah can let him in. All right, Shannon, unless people have other paperwork questions, I'll stay on and maybe just keep an eye on the chat. If people have paperwork questions they want to put in there, I can answer that. But that's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Haley. Thanks for streamlining that and making everything so simple. So just a super quick overview. Most of you are returning coaches, but we do have a handful of new coaches. So just a quick program overview. I'm going to introduce our site directors. A couple odds and ends we'll go through, and then at the end of the training tonight, Sarah will talk about our COVID mitigation plan. So first up, just a basic overview. Junior Nordic is for kids ages 6 to 14, and we are strict on that age 6. So as coaches, if you have a kid that you really suspect is not 6 years old, I mean, ask the kid. They're usually honest. But we have had incidents where parents just lie on the registration because they want to get their kid in. So if you have kids who you suspect are 5 or younger, we'll just invite them to join at a later date. So ages are 6 to 14, which is a big range. We don't have a lot of kids on that older end, 13 and 14-year-olds now that there's Alaska Winter Stars and APU and middle school skiing, but it is open to kids ages, 6 to 14. So big range. Junior Nordic is a fun program. It's not a racing oriented program. Just teaching basic skiing skills. We want kids to be lifelong skiers. We want them to love skiing, keeping it fun. We have 4 different groups. So on our website, we have hopefully you'll get familiar with this, even if you know what group you're coaching, but we have 4 groups in Junior Nordic. Polar Cubs, Otters, Wolverines, and Hawks. In that order. So our Polar Cubs are our new skiers all the way up to Hawks, who are our most experienced skiers. And Hawks, get the coveted red jackets as opposed to everybody else who wears the green jacket. So if you could, even if you know what group you're coaching, if you could review the skills required for each group, that would be helpful, just so you know what the kids should have coming into your group or what they should have moving on to the next group. And again, that's under the coaches tab on our website. I think Sarah's going to screen share it right here. If not, no worries. That's all right, Sarah. If it doesn't pop up, it's no biggie.
I think that's there.
Can you see it on your end?
We can see the page with the
the cursor on there. That's all right. Basically, what it does is it just tells you it'll have Polar Cubs. Here we go. Yeah, so just become familiar with this. It's under the coaches tab on our website. It'll talk about skills required for each group, basically. There is even a more detailed one that kind of talks about attention span and this and that. But anyway, even if you know what group you're coaching, it's good to know what we expect from other groups. Sort of the way aside from and chime in if you have questions anytime, just holler, put it in the chat or interrupt. The structure of the staffing, the way it works is if you're coaching this year, you are a regular coach. Within each of these groups, Polar Cubs, Otters, Wolverines, and Hawks, there's a head coach at each location. So your direct go-to person would be your head coach. That head coach reports to the site director. So there's one site director that oversees each venue. And I'm going to introduce those people in just a second. Those site directors, if they have any issues or problems, they would come to me, program director for Junior Nordic. And if it's a bigger issue that needs to be NSAA resolved, then we would have Sarah involved. So it's kind of coaches to the head coaches to the site directors is sort of the structure of staffing at each venue. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our site directors for each venue. The site directors are really your go-to person. They're the people who are hiring at each location. So some people that are on this or in this meeting tonight don't have coaching positions yet. You may be subbing, and the site director is who you would go to every night at practice. And regular coaches are always checking in with their site directors. That's who's taking attendance. And if you have any issues with parents, your site director is the person that's kind of in charge of your all of the groups. So I'm going to go through and just introduce the site directors, starting with Kincaid, and then we'll go to Hillside, Russian Jack, and our Ready to Race program. Each of the site directors, just so you don't have to hear me talk for a full hour, they're going to just touch on one topic that we need to cover tonight in our training anyway. So they're going to give a quick blurb. So I'll introduce the site director, tell you what they're going to talk about, and then I'll just go right into the next site director. So starting with Kincaid, our Monday, Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. group, we've got two site directors, Jeff Wright and John Hemmeter. So we're going to start with John, who's going to tell you a little bit about incident reports, what they are and when you might use them. So John.
All right. Hi, everybody. Hey, I just want to start by last spring, we kind of finished up the season without it kind of fizzled in the COVID way. And I just want to take a second to thank everybody for the incredible job that they did last winter and hope that we can do half as good this winter. On that note, I'm going to talk about incident reports. So incident reports are a form that we have had. I'm going to pop it up here on the screen. And these are provided by our insurer. And these are things that we need to know when something happens at practice. We need to know if we're going to hear from the parents. This is your baseline. If you think that a parent might contact somebody else regarding a fall or a slip or some injury, then by all means, fill out an incident form. They need to be, we request that they be filled out within 24 hours. They are available from me or from your site director, depending on your venue. And just a couple of things really, really quick. Important things: date that it happened, where it happened, a description of the incident. If you know what the injury is and any medical assistant that you gave, describe it, the name of the person that it happened to. If you have anybody that witnessed it, another coach or a parent volunteer, try to get that information from them. And they do ask, if you have the witness information. If you have a cell phone with you, take some photographs of the incident, the place where it happened. I wouldn't recommend taking photographs of the injury or the kid unless you have permission from their parents. This, it not only covers all of our butts if something happens, but it also gives the office, Shannon, Sarah, Haley, everybody above, outside of that group of skiers, it gives us a heads up that you may be getting a call from a parent, you may be getting a call, there may be, if they went to a doctor. I did want to just give one quick example. Last winter, we had an incident, which I hope we never have to deal with again, but we actually had an avalanche, which a group of kids slid down one of the sand dunes. The coaches that were in charge of the group sent somebody to tell the site directors. They coordinated getting the kids to a safe space. They coordinated with the site directors, with the Nordic office, and with Shannon as the director as to what happened, when it happened, how it happened, who it happened to, and any requests for further information. They were upfront, they were quick about it, and they handled it absolutely professionally and about as well as we could ever expect. That incident actually made it to the news, and because of the way that those coaches handled that situation, it made us look very good. So if you have any question, if you have a skier, you're going to have kids that are going to fall down. They're going to tell you that they broke their back, their head, their leg. If they are not showing signs of an injury by the end of practice, you don't need to report that. But if you have a child that gets poked, is bleeding, we've had a case where a kid fell down and lost a tooth, report it. If you're unsure, report it. Okay? Make sure you get it in as fast as possible. Try to get as much information as possible. I'm done. Any questions?
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
That's perfect. And thank you for thanking the coaches from last spring. We had no closure last spring with COVID. Our program just ended. We didn't have a wrap up or a party or anything. So thanks for bringing that up.
No worries.
One thing just to touch on, in addition to what John said, he is right. Like when we had the avalanche last spring, our coaches did such a fantastic job documenting everything. And keep in mind, you might have an incident that is not necessarily medical. Anything that you think is out of the ordinary that might wrap around. Like we had an incident with a skier last year just being pretty inappropriate, making inappropriate comments, ended up kind of touching another skier in an inappropriate way. The coaches documented everything. We were able to talk to the parents and solve the problem. So anything out of the ordinary, medical or not, just make sure you're documenting everything and bring that directly to your head coach or your site directors. So thank you, John. And John, by the way, is our 630 site director, and he also acts as a 430 site director. So he has two roles with Junior Nordic, or two different site director jobs. John's partner for the 630 group is Jeff Wright, and Jeff is going to talk to us just briefly about communications. So Jeff, you're up.
As usual, John's taking the hard job and giving me the fun one. So on parent communication, I wanted to start off just with a kind of quick philosophical note about why we communicate with parents. I mean, the sort of importance of it. Some of it's probably pretty obvious, but as part of teaching a kid to ski, we're really not just bringing up kids in junior Nordic. We're kind of teaching whole families in a lot of cases about Nordic skiing. I was one of those. My kids were in junior Nordic. I'm a site director now, but when when my kids started cross country skiing, I'm not from Alaska. I'd never done this before. I got into it, and part of the reason why I'm still here is because the coaches at the time, including my co-site director and coaching mentor John, communicated all the way with me. That's part of what drew me into the program, and it also allowed me as a parent to support my kids. In other words, if they were having a challenge because they were having equipment issues, if coaches noticed that they were tired, underfed, whatever, they let me know, and then I could, a lot of times, dressing is another big issue. You can't really teach kids successfully to ski without support from their family. So from a practical standpoint, I try from a coaching standpoint to, in a perfect world, at the end of every practice, I try to touch base with every parent. Now, in reality, there's a lot of handoff that happens quickly at the end of the practice. I don't get every parent every time, but I make that a personal goal. When you're communicating with parents, obviously, if you have an issue on the trail, if you have a kid that doesn't seem like they're feeling well, if there was a social issue out there, let the parent know. If you have a kid who was dressed inappropriately, they had too much clothing on, they didn't have enough, they were cold, let the parent know, because if the parent knows that, then next time they can help you better. Similarly, if you have a kid that's complaining the whole time that they were hungry or thirsty on the trail, let the parent know, because again, parent knows that, then next time they can work on that issue. And if you have kids that are appropriately dressed, well fed, well rested, you're going to have a much happier group of kids on the trail. And although you definitely want to discuss any issues or problems you have with the parent, a lot of what keeps parents excited about the program is hearing about their kids' successes too. So I tend to coach mostly the younger set, but these kids have a lot of personal triumphs when they're out there. If you have a kid who goes down a big hill, who's scared of the hills and goes down a big hill for the first time and has fun doing it, talk to the parent about that. Even if it's just like a silly anecdote on the trail. Their kid stopped and dumped a load of snow from a tree on their head and laughed about it. Give the parents those little things. It keeps them attached to the program. It makes them excited to bring their kid there. Both the fun little stuff and also the really practical issues. And that's for those of you who are coaching polar cubs and otters, kind of the younger kids of the program, that's critically important. But even on up to hawks, parents still love that stuff. And you can still use them for support. If you're teaching hawks and you're getting into advanced technique and you think you're looking at a kid and you're having a hard time teaching them, proper pole technique because their poles are, 4 inches too short, tell the parents next time the kids will probably show up with poles that are the right length. That's really all there is to it. I guess the one last thing I'd say is I appreciate the fact that for some of our younger coaches, especially for you guys who are in high school or college, it can seem a little intimidating to talk to parents who are, vastly older than you. In some cases, they're probably a similar age to your parents. But you guys are the experts in this case, so don't be bashful about doing that. Talk to them, and I think that's all I got. But if there's any other site director out there that's got a helpful chime in, feel free.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, next person I was going to introduce is Tyler Hennigan. Tyler is Tuesday, Thursday, 6:30 at Kincaid. And Tyler actually double dips. He's also a site director at Hillside, 4:30. So he does an early group and an evening group. And Tyler is going to talk about what to do in the event of having no snow, like what our no snow options are. Hopefully we won't need to hear anything Tyler says, but Tyler, are you there?
Definitely. Thank you for the introduction, Shannon. I'm Tyler. I'll be site directing at Hillside and at Kincaid as well. Definitely cross your fingers and do your snow dances that we have plenty of snow this year. It should be awesome. I'm hoping so. But just in case it's kind of questionable, always look to your remind messages, which someone else will cover pretty soon here. Those remind messages will let you know, is practice a go? Is it not a go? Generally speaking, we almost always hold practice. And if we're not able to ski, we'll find another alternate activity. These might be things like hill bounding, running for kids that maybe are a little too young for hill bounding. Could be ice skating, could be something super cool and out of the box like orienteering, or who knows, something sweet outside though that keeps kids active. But the biggest thing is kind of just being prepared and flexible for whatever happens, especially if if it is looking pretty rainy or knows everything's melted down. Just being flexible and still super stoked to get out and hit the trails with the kids is really important. Make sure you got some spikes and some running shoes. Safety is definitely obviously super important. But yeah, just being flexible and excited no matter what, even if we're not skiing that day. Yeah, that's about all I had for that.
Great. Thank you, Tyler. Yeah, our intent is always to go skiing with the kids, but this time last year we were brainstorming dry land options because we didn't have the snow like we do right now. So hopefully we'll have snow on the trails for practices. But like Tyler said, it's our intent to meet with the kids, even if we're not skiing, and to make it fun and a valuable evening. So thank you, Tyler. Next up is Sam. Sam Kaysen is our Tuesday, Thursday, 4:30 site director at Kincaid. And Sam is just going to briefly touch on trail etiquette.
Thanks, Shannon. Yeah, trail etiquette is pretty straightforward. There's one thing to keep in mind, overtaking skiers. When a faster skier is coming, especially if you've got polar cubs, you need a signal, and we've used trail bomb or ski bomb in the past as something to shout out. And that means our little polar cubs scatter 3 or 4 or 5 different directions and make fall down and make the trail a real obstacle course for the skiers to get to. So early in the season, early as one of the first lessons, along with how to react when an animal appears, it's a great idea to have all your kids understand that when this call goes out, everyone go to the same side of the trail and not preferably on the tracks. And that's the other thing. Especially when the snow's early in the season, the groomers do a fantastic job of setting the tracks. If anybody's been out, they know that the lighted loops have wonderful tracks right now, but it only takes packing down those tracks and scraping through them half dozen times or so before it's difficult to use them. So try and teach the kids, if they're walking along, if they're herringboning, they shouldn't be herringboning on the tracks. That's part of trail etiquette. When you're overtaking another skier, it's your responsibility to miss them. When somebody's overtaking you, it's your responsibility to politely give them the trail and cheer for them as they go by, especially if they're doing something really cool. It's a great chance for the slower skiers to see what the better skiers look like and see how they manage to get down the trail so quickly. So it's a way of keeping the kids together, keeping us all on the same page, and paying attention to the surroundings. And that's really what trail etiquette is all about, is paying attention to the other people who are out there skiing. And generally, the kids like the lesson just fine. And one of the biggest challenges is to keep them from hollering ski bomb at each other when a very slow skier appears behind you, and all the kids want to run to the side of the trail and watch that person go by, even though it may take 6 or 7 minutes for the person to even catch up to you. So you do what you need to get by, but early in the session, go over how to clear the trail, how to all go to the same side, and your job as Polar Cub coach will be 30 or 40% complete.
Great, thank you, Sam. Yeah, we will hear from community members if they think our junior Nordic kids are a nuisance. So just keeping our kids polite, teaching them which side of the trail is the right side so people can pass on the left and everything Sam said. So thank you, Sam, very much. So those are our Kincaid site directors. We'll move on quickly to our Hillside site directors. Dave Ward has been a site director for several years. He's a pro on lots of topics, but tonight he's going to talk to us about our sign-in sheets. There's a little bit of talk about possibly doing an electronic sign-in sheet, but for now we're going to just go with our traditional sign-in sheet, and Dave will go ahead and explain that to us right now.
Yeah, let's see if I can share my screen here.
Dave, Jeff is in the chat box. He wants to know, how many years have you done Junior Nordic?
I think I started in 2006.
All right.
So became a site director when Bart relinquished the reins in like 2010. So yeah, once you get roped in, there's no escape. But it's a fun job here. So hopefully everyone can see the sign-in sheet that I'm sharing. Is that visible, Shannon?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, okay, so this is the one that I've set up for my coaches, Hillside Monday, Wednesday for the first session. It says weeks 1 and 2 up at the top there. Monday's grayed out because we're going to start on Wednesday. And the idea is that after practice, everyone will go by back of my truck, so the site director's vehicle, and maintaining social distance will one by one initial in the column for the proper night that we've been there coaching. If you forget, the site director can initial for you, but there's also a chance the site director might not remember everybody who was there that night. A lot of Polar Cub coaches, and I'm not a Polar Cub coach, so I don't see all of those coaches all the time. So yeah, it's important that you initial it. And then, and you shouldn't be signing in for somebody else either. You really want each person to be responsible for it, or the site director in that case. If you're not on the list because you're substituting for a site, there's should be space at the bottom to add your name, and please add it last name and then first name to make it easier on people inputting stuff for payroll. And then also indicate whether you're in a paid capacity or a volunteer capacity. So I've got Suzanne Swartz here, who's going to be volunteering with our group this year. So she's got a V over here in the final column. Let's see if I want to stop sharing this one and share just one that's been filled out. So let's see. Here it goes. So here's one from last year that is all filled out. There are a number of coaches that didn't sign up, so I just put my initials, DW for CD, and a couple of spots here, or DW for RP. And then just to make it absolutely clear, when regular coaches weren't there, I put a dash there, so who's ever doing payroll knows, no, they definitely weren't there at that night, and they were there on the others. Yeah, so again, at the end of practice, make it a point to find the site notebook and find a page here to get signed in so that everybody knows you're there. It also is a chance to probably talk to the site director, just let them know how things went. And, other coaches may be around. It's also just, good time to let everybody else know any particular issues or, great things or whatever. So, okay. I think that covers the coach's sign-in sheet.
Great. Thank you, Dave. That's perfect. The only thing I would add to that is if you are subbing and you're writing your name on there, please write legibly. We've had people that sign it like a signature, and we're trying to do payroll. We have no idea whose name it is. So if you are subbing and your name's not pre-populated on that list, please print your name neatly so we can get you paid. Another thing, this doesn't happen very often, but we have had a situation where somebody whose name is on the list, a regular coach, has arranged for a friend or somebody to sub for them, and the sub will sign in as that person. So I saw Maya Brubaker is on your list. And let's say Quincy Donnelly is going to sub for Maya Brubaker, and Quincy would sign in under Maya's name and just initial. And that is not the system. The system is, even if that person agreed, I'll just pay you if you sub for me. It's a liability issue, and we need to keep track of who is actually coaching. So please make sure if you're subbing, you're not signing in for the person you're subbing for. Write your name on your own line. Okay, so thanks, Dave, for covering sign-in sheets. Next up is our Tuesday, Thursday, 6:30 site director is Josh, and Josh is our new site director this year. He's coached many years, but he is filling the shoes of Dan Bosch, who just recently retired after many years of Junior Nordic. And Josh is going to talk to us about timeliness. So Josh, you're up.
All right, thanks, Shannon. Yeah, so timeliness, this is actually a pretty quick one, but very important. I mean, it seems pretty self-explanatory, but we want to start practice on time. Not only are the parents, investing in this, it's important that the kids have some, regularity in how the practice runs. A big part of that is showing up at least 15 minutes before your practice starts. So, if you're 4:30 or you're 6:30, that's the time when you should be out on the trails. Shouldn't really be waxing your skis at that point. Shouldn't be, doing whatever. The whole idea is we get there early. And it's going to be very important this year, I think, with some of the additional COVID measures that we'll talk about later that we're going to have to follow. You want to get there early and encourage the parents to do the same. So, you get there early. For classical skiing, we're going to have to wax up. There'll be an attendance piece that we're going to talk about later here. And the big part of all that is you get to leave on time. That way the kids get their full time skiing out on the trails. And that's what we really want to be doing. If you're constantly waiting, if you're leaving late, people tend to get into a habit of doing that. And that includes the parents. The parents show up late. And you wait every time, 5-10 minutes for their child to get ready, then you're kind of reinforcing that as a habit for them. And we really don't want to do that because that's not great for the rest of the kids in the group. And everybody needs to be having fun and getting their full time in skiing. So if you are having a parent that's showing up consistently kind of late, you'd probably encourage you to talk to the parent, or if you're not comfortable doing that, maybe talk to your site director. Site director can talk with that parent about, kind of the importance of them showing up on time. We don't want to make anybody feel bad. It's hard to make things, when you have a busy schedule, it's hard to make it to things on time, but it's important. And that also goes for showing up back to your meetup place at the end of practice. You want to try to be there on time as well, because if you're not there on time, parents get worried when they're waiting for their child to come back and child's not back, all the other skiers are back. Oh, what happened? It's important to, while you're on the trail, be checking your watch if you have one, be checking the time. Sometimes things happen, but that's going to be a big one. So yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you very much. That covered everything with why we want to be on time, coaches and parents. So thank you very much. And coaches are paid for that 15 minutes. So practice is, let's say 6:30 to 7:30. Coaches are paid an hour and 15 minutes. So we're not just asking you to be there at 6:15. You are actually required to be there on time because that's when your time clock starts ticking. So thank you, Josh. Next up is our Monday, Wednesday, 4:30 site director at Hillside. And this is Holly Reinhardt, who's going to talk to us a little bit about wildlife and encounters that we hopefully don't have.
The easiest one. We really just need to talk about moose, but we have had bear encounters. There was a group years ago that ran into a bear up at Coach's Cutoff on Hillside after a big windstorm. So just to keep in mind, if we have one of those doozy windstorms, the bears do wake up and they wander around. But most of the time, all you're going to see are moose, and you're going to see a lot of them. The big thing you need to remember is teach your kids and reteach constantly. If you see a moose, look at the coach. They need to look at you and see what your directions are. And probably you're going to say hug a tree, or you're going to say group up. The best way to deal with a moose is to prevent an encounter We always have an adult in the front. You always have an adult in the back. The worst possible scenario is that you've got some kid flying by himself in the front of the group and they run into a skier, they run into a moose. So if you have an adult in the front, you have an adult in the back, you should never have a problem. Some of the things I've seen is that a lot of times you run into a moose and you're on your way back. And so you really want to scoot by the moose and you think, well, they're not really looking at me and they're really used to kids. Don't try to go by a moose. It usually doesn't end well because there could be somebody on the other side of the woods who spooks them and they could run to you. You could spook them and they could run to another group. So if you see a moose, look to the coach, hug a tree, turn around and go back, always yield. It's amazing how many people I see, adults and kids, who think they can scoot, 10, 20 feet away. They're unpredictable. So 2 more things. There's a story that I didn't see when I was at Kincaid, but one of the best stories is that there was a coach down in that new soccer field, and the moose, somebody startled a moose because they do that. And the moose took off charging across the field, and there was a group of kids in the middle of the field and they didn't have anywhere to go. So he did the right thing. He yelled duck and cover, which all kids know because we do it for earthquake drills. So all the kids dropped down on the snow. They covered the back of their neck and they turned into bugs. And the story is that a moose actually jumped right over a kid. So something to be aware that if you're caught out and there is no place to go, duck and cover, and it's better than having a moose knock you down. Sailed right over. My last thing is don't clank your poles. Some people love to do that. They think, this is my trail. I'm going to bang my poles together really loudly so I scare the moose and he runs away. You might just piss him off and he might run to you, or he might run to another skier on the trail. So yield. I've never, ever, I've been doing this in 96 or 91, and I've never seen a bad wildlife incident for Junior Nordic.
Good. Keep it that way. Good. All right. Thank you, Holly, very much. Our last site director at Hillside is Tyler, who I've already introduced, so he's not going to present again, but just so you know, Tyler's also the 430 site director at Hillside. We'll move to our next venue, which is Russian Jack. Art Herman is the site director at Russian Jack. He is site director for all the groups, Monday, Wednesday night, Tuesday, Thursday night, and we have a new afternoon group, 430 group. So Art is at Russian Jack all the time, and he's going to talk to us about what the dead bug drill is and what it is and why we need to do it. So Art, you're up.
Yeah, so what is the dead bug? That's a great question. No, it's just a great way, and a lot of you have heard it all before, and this is mostly for your beginning skiers, but if you've never learned it, it's not a bad thing. But it's basically how to get up. And I know with my Hip Polar Cubs this year, I'm going to be spending a lot of extra time because those of you who have skied with Polar Cubs before, there's always a few that need to be have that hands-on help. And while we're going to do that, we're going to try to limit it as much as possible. So, and it's always our goal for them to be independent anyway. And so it's just a fun way here to teach. It's a nice image for them here to know what to do when they fall over. And I
have that queued up if you want to show it, Art.
Yeah. How about you?
Okay.
Roll the video. Yeah. Hey, this is Coach Art, and I'm here with my friend Corin, who's a Polar Cub at Russian Jack. And we're going to show you how to do the dead bug today. Sometimes, especially when you're skiing on this weird green snow, you fall. Oh no, what is Corin going to do? Well, he's going to do the dead bug. He's going to lay on his back and put his feet up to get everything straightened out, then roll over onto his skis and stand up again. He's ready to go. We'll see you out there. Hey, this is Coach Art, and I'm here with... And so when on that first practice for the Polar Cubs, maybe even for the Otters, I would practice the heck out of that. It's just do it on a flat, and then when you're out skiing, do it on an uphill, do it on a downhill. Just make it a lot of fun and be dead bugs.
Perfect. And that's more important this year than ever because we are really going to try to be physically hands off with our kids with COVID. And with the little kids, we're so used to just going in, sweeping them, you know, putting your hands in your armpits, pulling them up and off you go, or helping kids, or you're really in their space when they're down on the ground. So with social distancing, we really want to teach our kids how to be independent skiers and how to get up off the ground on their own. So teaching the dead bug drill or any other tricks you have to get the kids to be independent and up and off the ground is excellent. And so Art made that video. He's got 2 videos. He has it with his older son also. So we'll make those available if site directors want to share those with their parents at the parent orientation as well. Art, anything else you want to add to that? It's perfect. All right. Thank you for doing that. And thanks to your kids for making the videos. Those were great. Next up, we have Addie Wright, who's our director for our Ready to Race program. And Addie's basically just going to give us an overview and tell you what Ready to Race program is. So Addie, you're up.
Sweet. Hey, everybody. Like Shannon said, I'm the Ready to Race site director. Ready to Race is an add-on program. It's geared towards Hawks and motivated Wolverines. Basically, kids that are starting to get interested in racing. Ready to Race meets every Sunday afternoon, and we practice kind of advanced skills techniques as well as race skills. Like normally we do like relay handoffs, practicing starts and finishes, and normally we do glide waxing clinics as well, although, you know, I'm not sure if that'll be able to happen this year due to COVID, but we do a lot of really cool stuff that the kids don't get to do or learn about always in their regular Junior Nordic groups. And in addition to those regular practices, we also meet for the AMH Cup races, and our Ready to Race coaches provide race support for Junior Nordic skiers there. So we help with bib pickup, waxing, kind of just managing general race day chaos. We lead warm-ups, and we're the best cheerleaders on the race course. This program, it's really great for skiers who are about to go into middle school racing, as well as it's a really good gentle entry point for skiers that are a little bit more apprehensive about racing, because we can kind of help guide them in racing. So if you've got a Hawk or a Wolverine that maybe is thinking about doing middle school racing, but is a little bit nervous or scared about it, it's a great program for that. It's only an additional $25 per season. So it's really a steal for an whole extra practice a week of really fun material. So all of you Hawk and Wolverine coaches, hopefully you guys can encourage your kids to get signed up for the program, because we'd love to have them. And that's all I've got.
Great. Thank you, Addie. And Addie, I don't know who you have lined up. I think you have Tyler and Caleb, or who's your coaching staff?
Yeah, I have Tyler Hennigan and Caleb Roush.
Yeah, so those 3, that is like a super fun dream team. And like Addie said, it's only $25 a session. So if you do have kids in your upper groups, Wolverines or Hawks, they can sign up anytime, even after Junior Nordic starts. It's kind of a rolling gig, but it's fun. If you have kids that are a little more serious or interested in racing, they're welcome to sign up with Addie's group. And there are a lot of race opportunities. I mean, we'll see what happens with COVID, but Addie mentioned the AMH Cup races that we offer support. Those are fun community races. Hopefully CCAK will be offering the Tuesday night ski race series again this year, which was really fun last year. Those are really casual and fun family events. There's also Besh Cup races, which are a little more serious, or kids who are serious about racing, but there's a number of race opportunities in Anchorage. So it's, like Addie said, Ready to Race is a good bridge to kids who are interested in maybe trying racing.
And real quick, Shannon, I forgot to mention, we do move around between different locations. So it is a program for all locations. So whatever site you're at, you can still encourage your kids to sign up.
Yeah, thank you. And before I move on to the next agenda item, I wanted to back up to Art, who just did the dead bug video. One thing I wanted to add just really quickly, something new we added to our website this year. not necessarily part of our COVID mitigation plan, but giving us an out as coaches, is we added a little blurb that said something like, if we have kids who are not independent enough to ski, or are repeatedly, on the ground, and we can't get them up. And we do encourage beginners. We are a program for all levels. But if there's a skier in your group that is laying on the ground and it keeps happening over and over, and you cannot get them up, and your coaches don't feel safe in a way that they can get them up without touching them, or repeatedly doing that, we actually put that on our website this year, that we might ask kids to try later when they're a little bit older, or in another session. So just know that as coaches, you have the opportunity this year to uninvite a skier to join your group if need be. And if that's the case, it's not just after one practice. We need to document it. If it happens once or twice or 3 times, talk to your head coach and your site director, document that information. But if you do feel like it's a risk that you really physically need to be too close to that child, just document that. And we would be happy to back you up and talk to the parents and ask those kids to join Junior Nordic when they're a little bit bigger and more mature and more capable. All right, so any questions on any of the things any of the site directors or Addie covered with Ready to Race? If not, we'll just keep plugging along. Just some odds and ends. For all coaches, it's really important that all of you are really familiar with the Junior Nordic program. So I know some of you will attend this training and then just sort of show up to practice, but if you could just take 10 or 15 minutes and scroll through the entire Junior Nordic all of our website and just read the information, because coaches will see you, or parents will see you and come to you and say, hey, I heard there's a new group at Russian Jack. What time is that group? Or, hey, do you guys offer refunds, or just this and that? And you don't need to memorize all the information, but it would be good for you to be familiar with the whole program. There's a lot of really good resources under the coaching tab. So anyway, just be familiar with all the information on the website, because parents will see you as an NSAA employee and assume that you know all of these things. So if you could just take some time to read through our website, make sure you're familiar with at least the general information. Sarah, do we have the coaches' roles and responsibilities available?
We do.
And this is a document that's under your the coaches tab on our website. And I don't want to read through the whole thing word for word, but I really encourage all of you to please go back on your own time and read through this document, just talking about, arriving to practice on time, make sure your kids are wearing hats. That's required, here in Alaska where it's cold, getting to know their names, counting kids. It's really important that you're counting kids at the beginning of practice and the end of practice, how to deal with parent helpers, general things about how to move skiers from one group to another. If you have a kid who's way off the front, they're way too fast and you want to move them, or if they're way too slow, you want to move them down, how to do that. What to do when skiers are having really terrible behavior. So lots of important information. And again, I don't want to take the time to read all pages of the coach's rules and responsibilities, but if you would please go back and read that on your own, that would be really good information to have under your belt. So any questions on that? All right, one thing I've been getting a handful of emails about are coach jackets. We do have jackets available for our coaches. We're doing a gear pickup for our kids on November 23rd and 24th. And at that time, we will retrieve all the coaches' jackets that are sort of locked in the bunker right now. So after the 24th, we will email you a plan with those. Most likely we'll make them available to the site directors, and then they will get them out to coaches. But you will get a coach jacket checked out for the season. The Remind, make sure everybody is on Remind. If you look on our website, there are codes for each group. It's really important that coaches are getting the Remind messages just like the parents are. This is where site directors every day of practice will send an update for the day. So if there's a change in location, like, it just turns out there's a middle school race here, we're not going to meet at this chalet, we're going to meet at Jodhpur. It would be good to know that so you show up at the right place, or it'll tell you if you're skating or classic skiing or what to wax, what to bring, whatever. So all important information is sent via Remind. So just make sure you look on our website, sign up for whatever Remind text is appropriate for the group that you're coaching. And Sarah will talk about this a little bit later, but we also have a required COVID assessment that we'll be doing daily, and that will be pushed out via Remind every single practice day. So just make sure you're signed up for the Remind to get those text updates on a daily basis. Just moving down my list on random tidbits. Next thing is remembering to have appropriate boundaries with your skiers. Like I said, we have kids ages 6 to 14. So if you have a 14-year-old in your group, it's not appropriate to be texting with them or messaging or whatever social media. So just remember, especially for our high school skiers who are not that much older than some of our junior Nordic skiers, keep those boundaries. There's really no reason you should be directly communicating with any of your skiers. When you go through the safe sport training, there's a whole section on if you did need to contact a skier, you're always messaging with their parent at the same time. So there's really not any reason to have direct communication with any of the skiers. So keep that in mind. Parent volunteers, we welcome parent volunteers, obviously with Junior Nordic. We don't want tons of volunteers in one group because of course we want to keep our group numbers small this year. We do ask parents that volunteer to not volunteer with their own child's group. We ask that they ski with another group if possible. Also, we don't want to put a parent in a position where they're alone with a skier. So if you have a skier who's injured or needs to go back to the parking lot for whatever reason they need to go to the bathroom, please don't send a skier alone with one parent volunteer. If you have to send a skier back, have a buddy system where at least one other skier is with that kid. So there's just not a situation where there's an adult and a skier alone together. Meeting places this year are going to be especially important. Your site directors will talk to you about this a little more specifically, but we're going to have very designated places where groups are meeting at every practice. And Sarah might touch on that a little bit with the COVID situation, but be familiar with where your group is always meeting, and that's going to be really consistent this year. First aid. You know, I'm not going to go into depth on first aid, but don't treat anything that you're not capable of treating. You know, try to carry your cell phone. I know we've got some spotty issues at Kincaid with coverage, but always have your cell phone with you. Make sure the kids all should have a tag that's on their zipper of their Junior Nordic jacket. On the back of that tag, it has all of their emergency contact, allergies, any medical conditions, and their parent emergency contact phone number. So just know that that's there if you did need to call a parent during practice. We also include food allergies, but this year we're not going to be doing any food, which I know is a bummer. Some of our coaches love to pass out gummy bears and treats, and the kids love it. We don't have a problem with that normally, but obviously this year with COVID, we're going to not do any treats or snacky kind of handouts. So we shouldn't have an issue with food allergies. Next on the list, I'm just going to briefly talk about subbing. Coaches are responsible for getting their own sub. So if you are not able to come to practice, we will have a sub list this year. We're going to try to have it really organized. You can just look at that sub list and say, okay, I'm a Monday, Wednesday, 6:30 coach. Look down the list, who's available Monday, Wednesday, 6:30. You can text that person, email, call, whatever, and try to line up your own substitute. If you're absolutely unable to get a sub, talk to your site director or email or call me, and I will try to find somebody to fill in for you, but you really are responsible for getting your own sub. And coaches are very much allowed to and encouraged to sub other groups. So if you're a Monday, Wednesday coach and you want to sub on Tuesday, Thursdays, we would love that because we already have you in our payroll system, you know the program, you know the routine. So feel free to sub for other groups. That's totally acceptable. And subs are paid, you know, same hourly rate that coaches are paid at whatever level they come in at. So anyway, but find your own sub if you're going to be absent, and also let your site director know. So in addition to lining up your sub, please email or text your site director so they know that they'll be expecting a substitute that night, and that sub will find the site director and sign in with them. Again, Sarah will talk about face coverings, but just a quick FYI, Alaska Pipeline gave a donation this year, so we'll be having free net gaiters, buffs available to everyone. We ordered enough for all of our skiers and coaches, so when we distribute your coach jackets, we'll also have a buff or net gaiter in there. If you want to wear that for Junior Nordic, you're welcome to. Next up, Sarah, are you good to start talking about our favorite topic, COVID? And I'll remind you again at the end of the meeting, but don't forget, if you haven't done so, make sure to sign into Haley's Google form in the chat box to get paid for this evening. So Sarah, I'm going to turn it over to you if you want to talk about COVID.
Sure thing. It's everybody's favorite topic. And I'll pull up the website real quick. Not that you don't know where this is already, but we are in the process pretty regularly of updating our mitigation plan, always. And every time a new mandate or health order comes out, we update. And every time new research comes out, net gators, do they work? Do they not work? Anyway, so we're trying to keep up with the times. And so just bear with us. The mitigation plan on the website right now is still from September, and I'm slowly but surely getting the next one updated. And that one will have more details in it, especially to do with like the certain sites about locations and cookie tours and that sort of thing. So anyway, we'll start from top to bottom. Everybody's favorite, face coverings. Like Shannon said, Alyeska Pipeline generously donated money to get those made. So they are being shipped right now from Ohio and should be here by gear pickup for the kiddos on Monday. And we encourage everybody to wear them, especially over the nose and mouth, preferably double layered. And you can include a mask on the inside or outside. I guess that's Ann Zink's new thing, is putting a mask, I think, on the outside of her buff when she goes running. So as a program, though, we are just requiring face coverings. We are not going to make you guys double check that they're double layered. So anyway, just make sure they have it on. They need to have it on all the time. That's the new way of our world right now, especially with numbers being so high. And we will have some extras in your wax boxes. So if we have a kiddo who shows up or a volunteer or whoever shows up and they forgot their face mask in their car or at home, we're going to have a couple extra in each of the wax boxes. Somebody donated about 200 of them the other day. So just know that those will be available. Next thing, social distancing. We all know about the 6 feet rule. The new emergency order also says small groups. If you're going to travel in small groups that are 6 feet apart, make sure that the groups are 20 feet apart from each other. So I envision that we have several smaller polar cub groups who will be traveling together, and that during practice, so we'll just make sure that those groups are about 20 feet apart. And when you start up practice, we are going to be having everybody do a symptom screening. Everybody's going to be doing this lovely daily COVID assignment by site. We had to do it by site because the way that we're going to double check these, it got really messy. So Kincaid 4:30 Monday, Wednesday, you're going to open up your daily COVID assessment, fill it out. Everybody who is at that practice, coaches, skiers, volunteers, anybody who's sticking around must fill this out. There are 2 things that this is going to do. A, it's going to be a symptom screener to make sure that, Johnny doesn't have a fever or isn't experiencing an unusual cough. Or his sister got COVID earlier this week and somebody forgot to say something. It asks all of these questions, so just to make sure, and it's part of our mitigation that we are telling everyone that we are screening our skiers. The second thing that this will do is be an attendance log. So we'll go back and check later. And so say, if Johnny he went to practice Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, he got tested and he was positive. So I'm going to go back and go into these spreadsheets that are attached to these forms and go and make sure that we let everybody who could have been a close contact know about that. So very important that everybody is filling these out, including yourselves, before every practice. Yes, so there's that. Let's see, what am I missing here? Coaches will all be given mini hand sanitizers. So we ordered over 100 of those little guys and they came in the mail the other day. So we have boxes and boxes of those. So somehow I will figure out how to get those to you, or Shannon will help me. But we're giving you all a mini bottle of hand sanitizer to stick in your pocket in case of the in case moments. If something happens and, there's any touching or, if anybody's uncomfortable, hand sanitizer. So just so you know, that's coming for you.
Or we can just pass it out with the coach jackets. We'll have that available.
That's a good idea. Mm-hmm. No indoor facilities this year. Some of you guys are used to using the chalets or Trailside Elementary as your warm-up spots or your pre-meeting or waxing areas. We have just said no indoor facilities this year, especially with our numbers. We're not going to be able to keep those capacities. So everything will be outdoors this year. So on that note, waxing, part of our mitigation is that we are going to try to limit the congregation around the wax box and limit the touch points of the wax itself. So we're asking that each group designate a waxer that will be waxing all the skis in that group. So that could be a coach, it could be a volunteer. Your head coaches will assign that person, and that person needs to be wearing gloves, and they must be wearing a mask anyway around, but gloves and a mask are important for the waxer. So just keep that in mind. That's a little bit different this year because normally we try to educate the kiddos on how to do their own waxing, and that's part of the whole process. And you might be still able to do education from a distance. And the other thing that might help with this is site directors will do their best to send out waxing recommendations to families who have wax or know how to wax at home. So just keep that in mind that hopefully maybe half your kids will show up and their skis will already be waxed. That would be lovely. This year, the cookie tour, which we all love and is a highlight at the beginning of the season, it being the mass chaos that it usually is not going to happen in its normal way. And Shannon kind of touched on this already. But each site has been developing their own plan on how to do this. So you'll hear from your site director on whether they're just doing groups by experience and then shuffling by hand, or if they're going to be doing mini time trials. So that will be actually part of our mitigation, the final mitigation plan I send out hopefully at the beginning of next week. But it's going to vary based on location and really based on the size of the group as well. So that's coming. And Great Harvest has donated cookie coupons to the kids, so we can still hand those out and make sure that they go in and get a cookie themselves and get some business to Great Harvest. So that was very generous of them. Group locations this year. So like I said, with the physical distancing, we wanted to make sure that groups were spread out. So the site directors have been making these marvelous maps, which we will get out to you and all the families here shortly. And that will basically spread everybody out in whatever location you're in. For example, Hillside has come up with a pretty cool map. They've got Wolverines in one corner, Hawks in another corner, Polar Cubs at the south side of the stadium closest to the parking lot, and Otters, I think, on the east side. So we're splitting everybody off. Watch out for the feather banners that folks have gotten ordered and used. Those will be really handy this year. And we just want to make sure that there's plenty of space in between the groups, especially on Saturdays, because Saturdays have changed a little bit. They're not the normal, everybody's mass showing up on Saturdays. We have created a complicated schedule, which sorry about that, but it made sense when we made it, and it still does. But Saturday times have changed. So let's see how. You'll have to just double check. I think what we did, you can see my notes on this, like my easy description on it. Okay, Tuesday, Thursday, 4:30, and Monday, Wednesday, 6:30 are at 9 a.m. And Monday, Wednesday, 4:30, and Tuesday, Thursday, 6:30 are at 11 a.m. So we tried to give space in between the groups. We tried to spread everybody out. And really, we just didn't want the mass numbers in the stadiums and on the trails as we normally have it. So just recheck this schedule 3 or 4 times before you go to practice for the first time on Saturday. And I'm sure there'll be lots of remind texts about it, but bear with us. This also opens up a really cool opportunity if you're free on Saturday and want to get paid a little more. If the folks before or after your group need subs, you're already there. You could easily sign up to be a sub for an earlier or later group, depending on what you already are coaching for. So pretty cool. Parent orientations are all virtual this year. A lot of our site directors are setting up their Zoom calls now. I would encourage all coaches to go to their own parent orientation for their night. I think it'll be really helpful for new coaches, especially, I think normally everybody's out skiing and the site director does the parent orientation. So this is a rare opportunity for more people to be involved or see that parent orientation. And all of that information, as I'm slowly getting it from the site directors, is online. So as I'm getting the information, for example, Kincaid Tuesday, Thursday, 6:30's group is having their Zoom call on December 1st at 6:30. and Tyler's emailing out that Zoom link to those folks. So just an example of what we're doing differently this year. And I think the most fun part we get to talk about is the what if section on COVID symptoms. So we send them through the screening log. And as we come across things like, do they have a fever? If they have a fever, send them home. If they have a sore throat, send them home. Shortness of breath, send them home. Really, it's parents filling this out. And at the end of the message, it says, if you said yes to any of these symptoms, please stay home. We'd rather not spread it, and we want everybody else to be safe. And we are outside. We are mitigated as to the fullest extent between the masks and the physical distancing. And really, I think the way the NSAA is approaching this is, we're not saying that we're never going to get it, but we're going to try to slow it down. And if we do get it, we're ready to communicate with families and coaches immediately. And we're going to do our best to keep everybody safe. So with that being said, the new plan has some FAQs on it. You'll see that they're pretty similar to the ASD ones about what a close contact is and what CDC says a close contact is. And right now, I think they're saying it's if you've been around for somebody cumulatively for 15 minutes within 24 hours, within 6 feet of them, you're a close contact. So if a sibling or a household member has COVID at home, that skier is considered a close contact and they need to go quarantine. And travel regulations, we are just following state of Alaska travel regulations. So as those change, we update our policy as well. And those are pretty laid out in this new plan as well. So with that being said, we are just going to keep updating this as we go. We're going to keep you as well informed as we possibly can. The latest and greatest mitigation planning will be on our website, like top and center. So this is where I would say to check frequently if you have any questions. And that would be my piece. I don't know, I haven't checked the chat lately if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Sarah. As Sarah said, it's a work in progress, so we'll keep you posted as those changes happen, and I'm sure they will. But that's our current mitigation plan. And yeah, those of you that are at college right now and coming back, definitely keep an eye on those travel mandates. We do need to stick with that. So just final words, unless anybody has any questions, just quick reminders. Please make sure that you get all those papers signed electronically back to Haley, all the requirements. If you're interested in subbing, please fill out the sub form, and I'll resend that link if you don't have it. Make yourself familiar with all of our Junior Nordic information on our website. Take a few minutes and just sign up for the remind code. You could do that right now, do it tonight. Make sure in the chat box to sign up on the Google form so you'll get paid for attending tonight. But just final words is keep it fun. We have, I think, is it safe to say, Sarah, record numbers right now for session 1?
We do. Yep.
Yeah, when we opened registration, we weren't sure with COVID, is it going to be a total dud? Like nobody wants to sign up, and it has been exactly opposite of that. We have several of our groups are totally full, which happens a lot of times second session, but not so much first session. And we're at capacity in several of our groups. So people want to ski. Parents are super excited about Junior Nordic. Kids are excited. So keep it fun. Have a blast. And let me know if you have any questions. You can email or call or whatever. We're available. Anybody have any site directors, any final words or anything else?
Shannon, it looks like there's some questions about Remind. So
Okay.
you might want to go over, some people probably have no idea what it is.
Oh, okay. If you're not familiar with Remind, the Remind app, you just sign up with a code and then it enrolls you in a group. So if you're in the Tuesday, Thursday, 4:30 group at Kincaid, the site director sends messages. They push them out to parents or coaches on a regular basis. So you just need to sign up. You get enrolled in that group. The codes are, let's say you're right here, Kincaid, Monday, Wednesday, 6:30. You just text at Kincaid M that little code exactly as it's written, and you're automatically enrolled in that group. And so every time that site director sends a message, you'll receive it. It's important to get the information, but this year it's actually required because that is where you'll get your the COVID screener pushed to you each day, and that's where you'll get the little link to quickly fill out that form. And Holly, did you say there was a typo? I'm sorry, when you said that, I just remembered. Was one of the remind?
Yeah, it was. I had a parent contact me, and I think one of them got fixed.
Okay.
Instead of saying like TT Tuesday Thursday, it just said T.
Yeah, I fixed it on the website earlier. That was our.
Okay.
But I'm looking at there's another one on there that just has M, and I don't know if it should be MW.
And Kincaid T. I guess I need to go check all these. These aren't new. They've been on here forever, so I don't know what happened. I'll go through and double check all of them real quick though.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Holly, for bringing that up. Any other questions? Is there something in the chat?
Okay, it's Tuesday, Thursday is supposed to be only one T.
Oh, very good to know. Jeff said that Kincaid with just the M, that is correct. That's how it should be.
Because I know for Hillside, it had to be TT because the mom who contacted me, she kept trying just T. So then we thought, well, maybe it's TT, and that worked.
Dave is saying that the Russian Jack code is not working for him, the Russian JM.
I just looked at that one and it was correct. Russian JM.
Okay, well, maybe circle back and sign up for Remind tomorrow. We'll make sure they're cleaned up, but somehow get on there eventually. Noah is saying, how do you join Remind? It should be right on the top. I think the code is 81010. That's the number you text to, like you put that in the to box, and then in the text box below, then you put in your venue location with the Remind code. Should be on there.
Okay, and everybody did the sign in tonight, the Google form sign in.
Hope so.
Copy.
Shannon, I have one last question. I know on the form it says, have you been out or have you traveled for 14 days? But the state changed it, didn't they? Because I'm going to have coaches coming back.
Yeah, Sarah, I actually wondered that too, because that is not the mandate to quarantine now for 14 days.
So what that says now is once you say, well, I have to get through all the thing. The last message says, if you said yes to any of the symptom screening, please go home. If you said yes to traveling outside of Alaska, please make sure that you follow the state of Alaska guidelines. So it's not stopping you from coming. We just it's kind of a heads up to coaches that this person has traveled, and the coach can follow up with said skier if they, got a negative test or something.
Separate topic, if you're not in the chat box, Sam Kaysen, who's the site director at Kincaid, on Tuesdays, Thursdays at 4:30. For those of you that are still looking for a position, or he's short a couple coaches. So if you're looking for a coaching position, contact Sam, and all the site directors' emails and contact information is on our website. But if anybody wants to double dip, or you're still looking for a job, Sam, Tuesday, Thursday at Kincaid, 4:30 group is looking for a coach as well. All right, Sarah, anything else? Oh, I see a lot of people registering for Remind right now. Good job, Andrew McNabb. And James and Valerie and Henry and Kayla, Eric.
Mary, you should get a confirmation message, I think.
Yeah, if you successfully join, it'll tell you that you're in.
Oh, it looks like Jeff has a separate Monday, Wednesday for coaches specifically.
Cool. All right, well, Jeff can share that with his folks.
Cool.
All right.
I would say we've heard rumors of potential hunkering or shutdowns or whatever in town.
During our meeting, they just announced it's not happening next week.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Good choices.
Okay. All right. If anything changes on that end, we will address it ASAP and get the word out. So just watch your emails and text messages.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. And like I said, please contact us with any questions, but have a blast and thanks for coming to our training.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. I will post the recording probably on the website, the coach's website,
Okay.
or email it. I don't know. Julia asked.
Goodbye.
Bye, Oliver. Nice to see you.
Looking good. We could post it, Sarah, and we can also push it out in an email just to the whole coaches group and sub list.
Okay. Josh asked if we're mothballing the hotline. I don't.
Oh, God.
We haven't gotten rid of the hotline, but I think the general message is still like, if it's super lengthy, use the hotline. But Remind is the primary.
That was my question. Since it's still on the website, I was concerned about parents maybe calling in or.
Well, what I would do if I were that site director, I would just make a generic recording that says, "Hi, welcome to Tuesday, Thursday, 6:30. Please check your Remind messages." But I know sometimes Jeff, like, who has like really lengthy things he wants to say, he will say in a Remind, "Please check the hotline." You know, and if it's like about an AMH Cup race or too much to, because, you know, you have a limited number of fields, you know, you can type in your Remind text. So every now and then somebody does use the hotline, but you do not need to update that daily at all. You can just put a generic message and leave it there. And in the event you want to use it, but just leave a generic message on there.
Yeah, I might need a quick refresher on how to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is a cheat sheet somewhere.
I know, where is that? It's not that easy, actually. I mean,
Hey,
It's
Josh,
not. Yeah, that's what I've heard.
I have a copy of it somewhere. I'll send
You
it to
do?
you.
Awesome.
John, if you have that, email it to me, because I think I have like a paper copy of that. I don't have an electronic copy, and it's like
Yeah, I have it on my laptop somewhere because
Okay, well-
I have to use it every year.
okay. Share it with the site directors, all of us, if you do find that, because
Okay.
it's like you have to type in 10,000 numbers and push
Yep.
this and that. And
Yep.
Tyler just said it's not super user friendly, but John, your copy was the only thing that worked for me.
I think the code is inscribed like on the side of a cave wall somewhere or something.
in Sanskrit or something. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
all right.
Okay. Well, that went great.
Thank you all.
Yep.
Okay.
Shannon, we have more stuff to talk about, but we'll do it tomorrow.
All right, we'll see you guys. Thanks.
Bye, John. Thank you.
Sarah, leave the office immediately.
Seriously, I'm I'm so tired.
I have to go cook dinner. It's my husband's birthday. Okay.
I'm tired of talking about mitigation. Oh, well. Okay.
All right,
Close the
okay,
meeting.
good night, everyone. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.